Apologies for the delayed start to this month's broadcast, but it's a hello and a happy new year. This is the first broadcast of 2016, so we're looking forward to another few good sessions this year. We've got a number of people will be joining us live, linking in with us this evening, which is fantastic because you get to ask questions to this week's or this month's speakers. So as normal, what happens is we'll hand over to the lovely Stu and Livy Gibbs shortly, but as they're while they're talking, you can be thinking of questions, and what you can do, there's two ways that you can ask those questions. You either, if you've got the Q&A, there's a little box at the top, then use that. If you can't use that, then please, we're saying use the Twitter this month. No, we're saying apologies, just go for the Twitter. So the Twitter account is @BroadcastCP. Okay, so Twitter tweet us at BroadcastCP, and those questions will make their way to us, and we will be able to put them to Stu and Livy at the end. So for tonight's topic, like I said, we have these guys that have church planted into London, into Greenwich. They've been there for about 7 years, and they have got 3 boys. They've been married just over 14 years, I believe, and their boys are aged 6, 9 and 11. Why that's relevant is because tonight's topic, we have asked them to speak on the impact of church planting on the family. So please get the questions coming to the Twitter account @CP, BroadcastCP, whilst they're talking. And for now, we're just going to hand over to Stu and Livy to do your stuff and share your story with us. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's a bit of a novel experience for us, so we're looking forward to it, and I'm sure it'll be fun. We were talking earlier about how to do it, and we figured, seeing as it was on family and marriage and all of that, rather than going for a really polished presentation, we'd do it in a very coupley way, and we would just kind of talk about it and probably interrupt each other when one says the wrong thing and the other one wants to interrupt, as married couples I want to do. And we're going to we've got a whole load of things that we're going to try and throw out in half an hour, and then we're open to any kind of questions that come, and we're going to try and do it roughly kind of chronologically through our experience of church planting and things we learned along the way. So Liv's going to go first.
Great. So as we just said in the introduction, we moved to London to plant a church in South East London in Greenwich back in 2007. At the time, our children, we had 2 sons, and the oldest was just over 3, and the youngest was about 18 months. And then a year after we got here, we became pregnant with our 3rd son, so we now have 3 children. So the first sort of noticeable impact really for us on church planting, that church planting had on us as a family, was just the nature of deciding that we were leaving our home to start again and learning how to leave well. We noticed as soon as we made the decision, first at a leadership level and then kind of rippling the effects down through the church, just what it felt like to start to be unrooted from the place we were familiar with. Everything had a time frame attached to it. There was a kind of an unspoken countdown that everything was sort of about handing over and moving on, lots of thoughts about the future that you realised you weren't going to be part of in that church. It was quite disorientating for us because we'd been really involved in the church we were in. Stu was on staff, was one of the elders. We'd been there for 9 years. We were really connected to people, and to start imagining ourselves being out of that church and it carrying on without us, and we started to feel people withdraw from us. And I think that's a really common experience when you know you're moving on from one place to another, for your roots to get kind of wiggled a bit so that you're a bit less connected to people, but also just a sense that everyone's got to move on. So there was our own feelings of leaving and trying to leave well, and lots of the emotion attached to that. And then coupled with that, I think for me particularly, there was quite a strong experience of fear. And I just became really aware, and I think this is not just our story, this is common, when the uncertainties of the future start to become reality and you don't know where you're going to live, and you don't know who you're going to be doing church with, and you don't know actually whether you're going to be that good at gathering a new team, and you don't know whether people are going to want to come and join the body that you're building, it's easy to get kind of quite aware of anxiety, and that it quickly develop into full-blown fear. And I think that happened to me. And one of the things I was particularly afraid of, I think, was what if it just all went wrong? We'd done a kind of okay job being in team leadership in churches, and this was like, we're going out on our own, and what if we're not very good at this? And there was a bit of a risk attached to losing our reputation. If you kind of go put your head above the parapet and say, we're going to plant a church, then everyone's kind of wondering how well you're going to be able to do that. And I think I was quite afraid. I was a bit afraid that maybe the things that we thought we were good at, it would turn out we weren't that good at it once we were, on our own. And then the other thing was just the reality connected with leaving, which is all the practicalities. And for us, that was related to housing. I think for a lot of people, it's housing and work. And if you've got children, it's schooling. Our kids were at an age where they weren't yet in school, but we didn't put our son into any kind of daycare or nursery in where we were living, because we knew we were going to move. So I kind of was out of sync with all of my friends whose children had started nurseries, and I was still at home with a 3-year-old, and he wasn't in any sort of connection like that. And then we lost a buyer on our property, and we had right at the last minute, and we had to kind of go down the route of deciding, are we going to move anyway? We found somewhere to rent. So then we had 2 houses on the go for a while, and there's just a lot of things that can effectively just cause a lot of stress and anxiety. And obviously in the middle of all that, you've got the uncertainty of where you're going to. So there were some challenges with leaving, but obviously coupled with that is the excitement of the unknown and all the possibilities that the unknown presents. So that was our that was like our departing and being sent. And then there was the next phase for us was landing, wasn't it? And actually arriving where we're supposed to be.
So we thought of a number of things that were kind of in the early days that we tried to stay on track with things that were affected and linked to family. So one was a real positive. I think when you plant a church, there's a kind of a unique opportunity to line up your church ministry and involvement with your family. Mm-hmm. So for us, we deliberately did almost everything in our house in the first year before we launched, and for quite a long time afterwards we did quite a lot as well. And that was a decision that we wanted to do that. We wanted to build people in and join people relationally. We wanted to make hospitality really important and central, eating together, all that kind of stuff. And what that meant was our family home was right at the center of the church, which actually is a really wonderful ministry opportunity that you don't get in quite the same way, I think, in almost any other scenario. And actually, it's probably to this point the best year of ministry we've ever had. And we really enjoyed it. We felt like we were playing to our strengths together and in terms of the church thing. And obviously the kids can come into that as well. So in those days, the kids group were in our kind of back room, and the church plant was in the front room. And we actually, in our slightly strange house, we had a window that went from the front room into the back room, which was an extension. So you could kind of look through it and check the kids were okay. And it was all very, very connected, which meant actually our kids still talk about 7-8 years later the time when we started a church in our house. So one of the real positives, obviously, is that it can have a very positive impact on family life, in that your family gets right drawn into the heart of the church plant.
And that was particularly notable, wasn't it? Because I think our children then developed a lot of friendships with adults who looked after them, who prayed for them, who cared about them, who invested in them, in a way that I think where you come from a church with a bigger, more established children's ministry, the children's relationships were really with our family friends or just kind of the people who are on kids' work. Whereas in the church plant, because there was like a dozen adults and 5 children, everyone was in together, and we felt more like an extended family. Almost some of those early team members now feel like aunties and uncles to our children. So that was really impacting on them, wasn't it? And it built a lot of connections for them. And I think it was really wonderful for me to see how the home could actually become a place, literally a physical place where people could connect with each other and connect with God. So the hospitality gift just flew like it had never done before. It wasn't just about, was I a good cook? I'm not that good a cook, though I did learn how to cook a lot of meals for 30 people It was more that we just recognised that we were creating a family feel about everything, because it was come, help with the washing up, read a bedtime story, now we're going to have a prayer time, could you bring some grated cheese to go with the dinner, and it was very much like a team dynamic. And even though Stu was obviously leading it, I think we were much more of a team together.
Do you want us to pause for a minute to set up a new call?
Oh, sorry.
Fine.
Apologies to everybody if there's anyone that is watching this. We obviously Tom's messaging us, isn't he, going, people are having difficulty getting on, and you're in the flow, and I'm writing notes, and we're in this. I'm with you, but obviously no one else is.
Yeah. That's okay.
What do we need to do?
And Wayne, Tom is obviously paused, has set up a new call.
It's still live. Log off, and we'll wait for him to set up a call.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
He'll send us a new link.
So, are you going to email me again with a link?
Yeah.
Yes, Tom is this is Tom.
You're speaking really, really loud. I don't know if you realise it.
Oh, I just assume that might be good.
Yeah.
They can always Oh, that's what that was. So that's the group chat. How do we log off?
Also, you're much further forward than me, so you look a lot bigger on the screen.